Alright, we're back with the third episode of Power Rangers January. Today we're going to do a deck profile based on the Lightspeed Rescue Power Rangers. The first profile that I did, you'll remember, if you watched it, that there was some Lightspeed Rescue Rangers sort of sprinkled into the back end of it for a little bit of their versatility. That effect continues to be good. In various decks, the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers get splashed into a lot of things. This deck is kind of commonly called Rescue Gears. It uses the RPM cards and the Lightspeed Rescue Rangers to kind of move important cards from the right and wrong spot to make sure that your Zords can come into play as regularly as you'd like. So this is a deck that's for the most part, it's a little different, but generally speaking, this was a deck that saw play when this game was around, and it's quite good. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into this one. So just starting off, as you know, I always include the team card. This is the card in this deck specifically you can probably get away without running, but I can't stand not having my team card in my decks. It just feels wrong to me. But 5 cost, it's a little high, but 3 damage, 3 assist, good. You can exchange the card battling this card with a card in that player's training area or battle area if they have any. Just a nice way to guarantee yourself a win. You're fighting a strong card, you can just switch it to a 0 cost guy in their training area or something like that. And that is often enough to have these big stats to be able to beat that. You do have 1,000 on one and 3 maxes. So you do have the ability to win fights quite regularly with this card if you do set it down. So I'll get into just the Lightspeed Rescue into things first. It's a much smaller portion of the deck. We've got 3 copies of the red Lightspeed Rescue Ranger, 0 cost, 1 damage, 1 assist. You may exchange this card with another card from your training area. As I mentioned in my last video with the Lightspeed Rescue guys, these guys are great because in the assist step, after you've done Megazord summons and stuff like that, you can just swap this into anything else that's in your training area. You'll find out in a minute why that's important. So we've got 3 of him. To keep that going, we have 2 copies of the Green Ranger. He does the same thing. These guys have 100, 100, 100, 100, and a 400 in some level of their stats. It just kind of shifts around where they have it located. This one is the same situation, same effect. You get your rock, paper, scissors, but generally it's just another example of this same effect. Same with the Yellow Ranger with another instance of paper, and same with the Pink Ranger with another instance of scissors. This package of Lightspeed Rescue doesn't necessarily need to be this large, but it does guarantee that you're always going to have a 0 cost, or not always, but statistically speaking, you're always going to have a 0 cost Ranger in your hand. The 0 cost cards are really, really good in this deck because you don't want to... you don't mind that you have a weaker Power Ranger because you're just going to swap it into something else eventually anyway. So you want to see a lot of these guys. Just kind of get those out of the way there. Alright, so we get in now to the RPM stuff. These are the cards, like I said, that you're really, really going to want to see and use with all of these 0 cost effects. It's just a pair of guys, but they are fantastic. 3 copies of the Silver RPM Ranger. Fantastic art on this card too. 2 cost, 2 damage, 2 assist. During the extra summon step, your Zords, your RPM cards cost 3 less. All RPM cards, but generally your Zords are what you'll play in that step. So as you can imagine, we're probably going to see some Zords later that we'll try to reduce the cost on and jump up into. So having a guy that does that is great, especially if we can buy him back every turn with these. That's pretty good. But we have another Ranger as well, the Gold RPM Ranger. He does the same thing. 6 copies of this is important. I definitely run the 3 and 3 of these because if you're going to get into higher Zords for cheap, you're probably going to be winning fights, which means these are likely not going to be going to your training area as often as you would like. So having multiple copies of this is always good. But, bright side, winning fights with Zords typically makes for a very fast game. Zords do a lot more damage, typically. They're bigger, beefier guys by nature of what they are. So this works really, really well with that, and is really consistent. We have one final RPM card, and it is the Shadow SPD Ranger, Doggy Kruger here. 3 damage, 3 assist, 3 cost. Win or lose, if this card is at L2, L4, or L6, he does +1 damage, and you can't take any damage. So if you win the fight, they're going to take 4 or 8, and if you don't win, you're not going to take any damage if you roll a 2, 4, or 6. That's great, especially with all the assists that we can have the access to. This is a good card. He's kind of our where this card is sort of a decent, beater. He's kind of the same vein. You're not going to see him all the time with the 3 cost, but as we'll get into in just a second, cost with our cards isn't the worst thing in the world either. And that's because we have some Zords, and this deck runs a bunch, way more than most decks get away with, just by the nature of the fact that they're all going to cost 3 less, as often as you can play the Gold and Silver RPM Ranger. So first off, we've got 2 copies of the Bear Crawler. Now, we have 2 of them. One is a 2 cost, one is a 3. Realistically, run 2 of this one. I'll show this one off first here, and in an RPM-focused deck, this card is better. It can be played for free on top of a yellow RPM Ranger, which is awesome, but when you play this card, you can put a card below this card in your training area. Now, that's really, really good. In fact, you could go either one of these areas. Either one of these is your kind of 2 of, but this one's nice. Put a card underneath this in your training area. So you play this guy. You go to extra summon step, you're going to play this card for free. When it's played, you put this guy into your training area. Just an awesome effect. You're going to get to pull this off more and more times, and that's going to be good. Now, the stats on this card are pretty decent. You only have 1 max, but you have decent numbers overall. It's very cheap, though. It does 1 additional damage, though, if you move an RPM card, which is what we're going to want to do. The 3 cost one, though, you can move the top card of your discard area to your training area. Now, the reason I say this one is better, A, stats are better. B, these make the cost 3 less, which means this card is free. This is free too, but you're wasting 1 of the free cost. So you might as well go with this 3 cost one. Plus, this one moves a card from the discard to the training area. So you have this guy in play, you switch to this, you grab a gold or silver from your discard area that you inevitably want to fight with, and put it in your training area. You end the fight, win, most likely, with this. This goes to your discard pile, this goes to your discard pile. You play another one next turn, play your other copy of this turn, put this guy from your discard pile back into your training area, and you can just kind of see how that combo is really going to keep looping on itself. We've got 2 copies then to keep going with that. The Lion Hauler, 3 cost, 3 damage. This one is a win effect. You may move the top card of your discard area to the training area. Again, as you can imagine, this keeps on trucking with that same combo that the Bear Crawler did. You can, if you'd like, get away with, say you really like the Lion Hauler, and you're not a big fan of, I don't like the way the Bear Crawler looks or something. You could run 3 of these and 1 of this, or whatever you want to do. I run 2 and 2 for the variation on rock and paper and scissors. But as we can see here from the 3rd one, the 3rd Zord is not rock, strangely enough. I would have imagined that the 3 Zords for RPM would have made sense to be rock, paper, and scissors, but we've got another scissors here. But this one, move the top card of your deck to your training area. This one is a little more random. I like this guy the least, however, he has the best stats. So that's where you kind of have the gamble of, he's better, he's theoretically stronger, he has a weaker effect. And the top of your deck is really random, you don't know what it's going to be. This deck doesn't do anything with like stacking your deck or anything. So you could get away with 3 and 3 and not run either one of the red ones. But again, it really is up to you what ratio you want to go with. As I said before, I don't play these necessarily to be their 100% competitive output that they could achieve. I really want to go with like the theme, and I kind of use all these decks as like a big battle box. When I do bust this out to play with friends, I like to just be like, what series do you like? Oh, you want to play as Lightspeed Rescue? Okay, I'll grab it and I'll bring them out. This at least gives you one of all the RPM, guys, Zords, and that feels more thematic to me. Now, these are just Zords, right? They're not Megazords. We haven't gotten into the big, cool, combined guy yet, so we gotta get there. We got 2 copies of the Gosei Great Megazord. Now, the RPM Zords, unfortunately, breaking a little bit of theme here, we don't get to go up into the RPM Megazord or the Lightspeed Rescue Megazord, but the Gosei Great Megazord, you will see in just a second why this one is as good for this deck as it is. 5 damage, 4 cost, 4 assist, awesome. You can move this card to your hand, your training area, or the bottom of your deck instead of your discard pile if you win. So you win, you put this in your training area, you have a assist of 4, means you pay, you pay this as your assist, you increase your dice roll by 4, assuming you also just won a fight, which means you're either doing 4 or maybe 8 damage. You're probably going to win your next fight off of a +4 on your roll, if not get at least make both players re-roll on maxes. Really good card. And finally, the meat and potatoes, the reason this deck is as cool as it is, we have 2 copies of the Samurai Gigazord. For one, amazing looking card. Beautiful, beautiful foil. That awesome grid, the diamond pattern in the background there looks great. 1,000, 1,200, max, max, max. Incredible stats. 8 cost, 5 damage. That's a lot, right? That's a lot. We understand that. But we can pay for cards from the training area. That's fine. We have a deck that wants to put cards in the training area. That's good too. This really is our finisher. This is when you dump it all. It's basically game over. You're probably not going to lose with stats like this. And if you win, your opponent takes 1 damage for every Zord in your discard area. So if we go back, take a quick look here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, plus the one that you have that you're attacking with. You could have 9 other Zords in your discard pile. That's 9 free damage. Plus 5, you're getting 14 damage, maybe 4 more, maybe 18 damage. You might be netting, you might be getting 19 damage off of this card. I mean, by the time you can pay 8 to even pull this off, it's ridiculous. I mean, a 30 card deck, right? You take your opening hand of 5, you draw your additional 2, you've got 7 in hand. You can't play this on your opening turn. You probably play a 0 cost guy. Second turn, you draw 2 cards, go to 9 cards in hand, play a 0 cost guy, do this guy, whatever you need to do with your training area. You could play this on turn 2 and not get away with a lot. But even at that point, your opponent has a 30 card deck. They've taken 7, 8 cards out of the deck just by starting the game. You're going to take almost every single card left in the deck if you resolve this. It's massive, it's huge, it's unavoidable, it's free damage in addition to the damage you're going to do. It's so much meat, it's so beefy, and it's so easy to play these Zords. They're literally all free if you get to play them on top of the gold or silver RPM Ranger, which is very easy to do because the entire rest of the deck is going to free play these guys over and over again. And then, worst case scenario, you can still bust out the Gosei Great Megazord, put this into your assist, and make sure you win the next fight. Say you get away with winning a fight, move this guy over, have it in the training area for the turn that you do get a pop off with the Gigazord. Get +4 to your dice roll, getting you anywhere, you know, at the worst you're at a max if you rolled a 1, you're at a 6 if you rolled a 3, which is the worst roll you could roll, or even a 2, sorry. It's just, what are they going to do? It powers up, it hits so hard, it's so consistent with this Lightspeed Rescue team, and it's just vicious. There's a little more you can do. Like I said, I've watered this down a little bit just to keep it thematic and on brand for my play group, where I like the theme and I like just kind of keeping it as in season as possible. But this deck is so iconic to the game, I had to have it at least in some capacity. There are a few things that you can do to beef this up. You can change the ratios on some of the RPM Zords. There's even an additional bear crawler. There's 2 bear crawlers, so you could run more of them. You could have 2 and 2 bear crawlers, or even 3 and 3 if you wanted to go. I mean, you could really get away with like 12, 15 Zords in the deck even. I don't know, there's so much you can do with this deck, and so much output, and it hits so often. I don't know, I'm beat a dead horse here. This deck is cool. Try it, build it, play it. I think anyone who runs this game is going to love how well this deck gels with itself and how fun it is to actually get to string that combo together. The strategy elements of this game are there, but are very light most of the time. And this deck really feels like you did something. Like, it feels like you put something together that really breaks the mold, really plays with the ratios, and gets combos going, and probably isn't something they necessarily intended for it to be able to do, but it works so well together. Please give this one a shot. I have one more of these that I would like to do. It will be next Friday as well, the final Friday in January. I have plenty more of these decks, so I might just keep splashing these out. But as far as once a week Power Rangers January, we are going to end that next Friday. I have a special video planned for that one, and I'm really excited about what that's going to entail. But for now, have a great night, have a great day, whatever time it is for you when you decide you're going to watch this. Put this together, play it. It's incredibly cheap most of the way up the stack, outside of the 2 Ultra Rares, and these are incredibly common Ultra Rares from set 2. Go kick some Lightspeed RPM Rescue Gears, as it's called, ass. Adios.